Hello. So it was actually quite hard to know what to talk about today, given that I didn't really know what the audience was going to be. I presume some of you are lone indie developers. You might be a dev in a startup, or you might even be like in an app team in a large corporate or an agency. Any which way, you're probably going to be working with designers at some point. The thing is, there are actually just many kinds of designer. So there are sort of like the traditional skills, so like graphic design or animation and motion or making sounds. But yes, I'm the other kind of designer. I can't draw. I'm an interaction designer, sometimes I'm a service designer, sometimes an experience designer. I generally think about information and how people can sort of process that, and also sort of how they can flow through things. But also I'm interested in sort of what people's behaviors are and how I want to change that behavior through the things that I make. Dan Saffer came up with this diagram of sort of like what user experience designers think about or what they should be able to do. I don't think there's a single person on this planet that can do all of these things. And actually, Peter Merholtz recently said that actually experienced designers aren't the people that think about all of this. They think about the holes in between everything else. And I think that's right. It is more of a holistic view. It's something that you're trying to manage across many different kinds of design and even like across teams. Certainly, I hear in startups lots of talk about the minimum viable product. And I want to concentrate on the word viable. Normally, when I talk to dev teams about a viable product, they say, well, it works. It actually does the thing that we thought it was going to do. But actually, do people want it? I think to be viable, they have to want it. They have to be able to use it. They have to keep using it. And they even have to know that it exists. There's no point making something if actually no one even knows about it. So how would a designer define viable? And what I'm really going to talk about is what a designer thinks about design when they're designing, so that you can start thinking about this too. As Louisa said, there is no fixed design process. There's no magic bullet that you can just apply and get a good design. We all have a toolbox of methods, and it's normally ones that we develop over like just doing a lot of work for like 10, 15, 20 years. But normally we start with the big picture, certainly if you're doing like more sort of service design or strategic design. And yes, you start with your competitors. There are going to be people doing something similar to what you do. And you just want to know what's good about them, what's bad about them. And yes, talk to people. Talk to people that might actually use the thing that you want to build. And I mean, there are several ways of doing this, but certainly, you know, just watching people in their, especially in their own environment, go to their homes, go to their offices and talk to them. But you can also talk to extreme users. So like if you're doing a music app, you might talk to someone that's got like their own Linux box that talks to their not iPod that handles all their music in the cloud. But also talk to the other extreme, so like people that have never gone digital with their music. You'll find the way that they think about things and the way that they've organized their life already might help you to come up with ideas that might sort of create something new and innovative. So there's a thing called rapid ethnography. All ethnographers hate this because they spend like 10 years working in a little group to work out how everyone interacts and what they do. And rapid ethnography is going and chatting to people for like an hour or a day, or just getting a feel of like what drives them. So yes, why is definitely the question that designers have in their head most of the time. And certainly once you know why, you can start to tease out sort of what's missing from what they do, what's not working for them. Because I really do believe the key skill of design isn't being able to draw things or make deliverables or like actually like do the design work. It's actually just being able to empathize with users and have sympathy for their situation and what they want to do. And it's actually like, this is something that lots of people can do. It isn't just designers that can do this. I think product managers should be able to do this, and you know, coders should get involved as well. So from like a team going out and sort of seeing what people currently do, you can start to work out what your thing should do. And sometimes, there are many words for this. It could be an elevator pitch, but I prefer something that's more like a product vision that doesn't actually say what your product is. It says what your users will be able to do. So, or even what they feel. So like my music with me at all times is a great sort of vision. Find out what my friends are doing. There are many answers to this. There isn't going to be just one product that could answer this, but at least it gives everyone in your team something to point to, and it gives you something that you can just keep iterating on. My one in the government, which is a nice small task, is I understand my tax situation and what I have to do. It's clear where we've got to go, and there's a long way to go on something like this. But it doesn't actually mandate what the product is going to be, or sort of say exactly, like bolt down what the answer might be to that. You'll hear a lot of UX people talk about personas, which are sort of picture portraits of potential users or actual users. They can get really unwieldy, and UX designers often spend a lot of time going into the infinite detail of their lives and completely modeling these people. Whereas what I think you need is just user types. So can you break down your whole user base into sort of like different sections? So for like, say, if you're making an RSS reader or something like that, you might have the actual just readers, those that just read stuff. You might have people that share stuff a bit. And you might have people that sort of write something about what they've read. And you might just want to slice and dice your audience like that. But it just helps keep, whilst you're doing the design and code and build and iteration, at the back of your mind, you just always refer back to this to make sure you're not missing anything. So if you've got like a big vision and you think you know who you're talking to, how do you actually design the app? You will have ideas. Everyone will have ideas. And it's actually really good that everyone has ideas. The worst thing is that the designer goes away and sort of comes up with a magic vision of what it's going to be and how it works. You want lots of ideas. You want the big ideas. You want small ideas. You want stupid ideas. You want practical ideas. This is why, the UX designer or interaction designer's favorite tool is the Post-it note. We will just whack them all on the board and sort of just keep on working with them until we sort of get something that feels right. So we'll also sketch things. And again, this isn't something that only the designer should do. Everyone should be able to just, quickly draw a screen and go, this is what's going to happen. And it's only by everyone in a team coming together and doing this that you'll actually get something that feels right and rounded and good. And as you start to do this, certain features will come out as being the things that you want to concentrate on. And then the designer works that into a UI. I'm not going to sort of go into how a designer does that, because, hire a designer. That's what they're good at. But, as Louisa mentioned, do sort of talk to people. And again, you don't have to be a designer or a researcher to do research. You can just sort of go to a cafe or a coffee shop, buy people coffee and ask them about things, or invite them to your office and give them a beer and show them something. The basic idea in guerrilla research that is different is that you don't make a report at the end. If everyone in the team is doing this, then you don't need a report, because everyone has seen what's gone on and has a shared understanding of what's good and what's bad. And you don't have to wait until you've got something that looks good. Paper is brilliant. People are really good at seeing something, having a quick explanation, going, oh yeah, this will do that, or oh yeah, this will be good, or I want it to do that. It's just talking to people as quickly as possible is brilliant. You might build a quick sort of webby prototype. Bootstrap and jQuery and things are really good at this. In less than half a day, you can have a basic UI and go this is kind of what's going to happen. If you want it to be a bit more appy and actually run on a phone, there's something like Pop App, and there are loads of these now. You just take photos of a UI and you can just make them into a little clickable prototype. and then you can just res it up as you get closer to a real thing. Proto.io is a sort of a service-based version of that. And Prototype's app lets you actually sort of use UI screens to do the same thing. So there's no excuse for not doing this. It's really easy now. You want to give it to people to play with, and actually seeing it on their phone might spark something that you didn't get from seeing it on paper. But what you certainly don't want is just to do the testing thing, as from the question. You don't want to tell people, like, right now, how do you sort of get to your music and play something? Well, I'd click this, and yes, that kind of works. You don't want a usability report. You want research. You want to see what people are doing and what they're thinking and why they're doing it. And I think that's in particular really important with new interactions, and this is where apps are maybe a bit different from a web service. There's lots of things where you might have to drag or point, and just seeing if people actually understand and can grasp that there are these different things that you can do with an app is really important. You might be lucky, you might be creating an app that doesn't talk to the internet or have a web service behind it, but I think most interesting things have a bit more of a service around them. As Louisa described, you define sort of a big service with many touch points. One thing that you can use to sort of make sure, again, you're not forgetting anything is something called a service map. So you might just break down a task into different areas. So, how do you discover the thing? How do you download it? How do people use it for the first time? How do they keep on using it? How do they do something in it? If they use the web, what can they do? How do they upgrade? And then how do they stop using it, and what happens then? This is what service designers think about a lot. For apps, it's actually a bit easier because some of these are handled by the App Store. There is one way of downloading and installing, which is so different to other apps, other platforms. So for each of those sort of bits on the service map, you want to go back to your list of kinds of user and go like, well, do they all do it the same way? Are there different ways that they might discover this thing or tell friends about it? So for each bit of the service, you want to break down all the different ways that your users might do something. But you really have to know if you're doing it right. It is all about analytics and metrics, and certainly, like, designers used to be very frightened of these because design is like art. Well, you want to know everything. A good designer, I think, wants to know, like, if I change this, what happens? And then if I change this a little bit again, what happens? And certainly tracking this over time, you should get a really good view, and both the designer and maybe like the product manager should really understand what tweaking something does somewhere else. And it's important not to just track the things that you might think you should track. It isn't just about the number of users you've got or how many downloads you've got, or whether you should also just pay attention that the usability is still there. Are people talking about the thing? Are you making any money? All of these should be tied back to design decisions. And as you make one thing better, you might actually make one thing worse, and that's actually the sort of the trade-off that happens in design. One thing, if you've got a web service, you might actually have people's email addresses, so you can just quickly fire off something and go to like 100 users and go like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And build all of that into tracked metrics so that you can tell if your service is going anywhere. But then there's everything else. Designers generally worry about everything. I worry a lot about how you market something, how you communicate, what's your tone of voice, how do you get feedback. I'll focus on some of the particular quirks of iOS and the App Store. The App Store is crazy. I don't know why anyone would put their thing on something which has sort of like a Yelp-style review system next to it. And you have to really sell your app. I'm fixated on screenshots. It's the one thing that people see other than the name of your app. And they're generally terrible. This is, I think this is some kind of Canon printer app. That's all I know. There's a picture of a QR code. This is something to do with email. It's actually one of these new, it's one of the mail somethings that lets you quickly, get through your email, and it's really good. But if you just saw that, you'd just think it's a really basic email app. It doesn't sell itself in any way. Just Eat is a UK-based takeaway service. They do a really good job in the UI of explaining what they do and how they do it. So on that first screen, order your takeaway online. There, that's what it does. Ask you for your postcode, find me a takeaway, and then it explains, tell us where you are, choose a takeaway, and pay for it. It's just really simple and a really nice sort of first UI that actually explains the whole service. And even really complicated things can use these sort of screenshots. So Evernote shrink the screen and put a little bit of text at the top, just to really explain what their service does, because it's actually very complicated to understand. So there's lots of little tricks you can do to just make your app sell itself. Another particular bugbear of mine is updates. If I see an update that just says bug fixes ever again, that's it. On the other hand, this is City Mapper, which is London public transport app, and it's brilliant, totally brilliant. And they keep on updating it, which is great because they add lots of good features. The thing is, they're adding so many features, and they really want to tell you about them so much. They've written this screed. So, don't hide away the interesting features that you want to tell people about, but also, don't write an essay. Every app has a Twitter account, but be relevant. I don't want to subscribe to your Twitter stream to get general lifestyle chat. This is Moves, which is a brilliant app. It uses something that only an iPhone can do, which has motion sensing, to record just your daily movement, how many steps, where you go. But it's a bit preachy on Twitter, and it's all about so where are you walking today? I don't want that. And particularly, don't retweet people saying nice things about your app. I've already downloaded the app. I'm even in it enough that I've subscribed to your Twitter feed. I don't need to know how good your app is. So, just tell me about new things that are going to be in the app. That's what Twitter should be for. Sharing as well. Oh my goodness. If I want to play a game, do I have to sign into 3 different services? I logically understand why they've made this decision. But it's just, really think about these. Is anyone ever going to do that? And notifications. This is brilliant because most of the Zynga stuff has started ratting on you. So I haven't used Draw Something or Words with friends for months. But then suddenly I started getting updates that said, oh, your friends are playing. And even it tells me the words that they're playing with, as if I'm going to drop this into a conversation with them. It's just really weird. Don't creep people out with notifications. This is good. It's an easy example because Mora is a magazine, and so it always has new stuff coming in. But the one update you get every less than one a week does really just get you back into the app and makes you want to either download it or use it. So the dreaded reviews. Oh man. This is a bad reviewer's product suggestion. Good app, calorie counter would make it perfect. 2 stars. This is a bad review as they think you're unfair. Why are you free this week? You were free when you first started, then you charged, now everyone has the app and you made it free again. A bit naughty, don't you think? 1 star. A bad review because your service may be slow. Fully regretted, 1 star. This is a bad review for removing functionality, which, I think is a bit fairer. So this was, I guess, WhatsApp. and they removed, they stopped it from working on the iPhone 3. And people didn't like that, unsurprisingly. But it's because they didn't really tell anyone. They just said, update your app, and then it stopped working. This is a bad review because it didn't work on everyone's device. So I'm a little disappointed this app wasn't optimized for the iPad, which I would have given it 5. Instead, I gave it 3 stars. This is a bad review for having different functionality between web and app. I've ordered before on a PC. I went to log in and reorder, but there was no option. 1 star. And this is just a bad review for charging for a service. So again, this is Just Eat. Used them loads. The app is awesome, but you charge 50p for a card transaction. 1 star. So you've just got to work out whether these reviews are just because it doesn't work, and therefore, I think 1-star reviews, if it doesn't work, is totally fair. Or is it just that it doesn't do what you expect? And this is, I think, where you can actually do something. Are you just not explaining what the app does very well, what it's good for, whether the person is the right kind of user for it, and in particular, just what's going to happen? There's a real sense of entitlement in the App Store. I paid £1, I downloaded your app. Why isn't it working? But I think if you take feedback in better ways, and certainly take it out of the public sphere, let people rant in private all they want, you can actually change the way that people are reviewing things. So Moves actually has a really nice thing in the app. And even if you complain on Twitter or something, they'll just ask you to go into the app, give us feedback, because it also contains all the information that you as a service owner need to know to actually see someone's account and actually see what the problem is and start a private conversation with you rather than taking it to the App Store and giving 1-star reviews. So the second key skill of design is basically caring. You have to care about everything. You care about the emails you send out, you care about the screenshots, you care that the app works, you care that it's making a difference, you care that people understand what you're trying to do, and that they even like your product. The devil is most definitely in the detail. Thank you. So, any questions? No questions. Oh, thought I got away with it.
Just a real quick question. We've also thought about sort of diverting people from their ranting in the App Store for embedded feedback somehow, but we don't have a lot of experience with it. Do you know any products or situations where that's actually worked, where it's really diverted it?
Well, I mean, so like on GovUK, which is one of the things I work on, every page has an "is there something wrong with this page" link, and people use it. They use it a lot. We thankfully have, it's actually quite a small team, but we have a team of people that sort of go through it and then send it to the right product team. So you do actually need to respond to it. That's really key as well. So I think it's if people see that there is, if there is something somewhere that they can click, they will. Don't hide it as well. Normally feedback is hidden under the about and then under the list of developers and somewhere. So make it prominent and really actually ask for feedback, because it's one of the ways that you're doing the right thing and that it's going well.
So you partly answered the question already, but the biggest problem with reviews is that we cannot get in touch with those people because most of the time we don't know who they are.
Yeah. So again,
what do you do?
Again, this is one of the real problems. And on GovUK, we had almost an anonymous way of complaining. And again, it's well, thanks. There's nothing I can do about this. And it might, it actually helps to sort of be in touch with them so you can work out what really was going on. It's easier if you're a service because you might, again, have their email address or like some way of contacting them. The other thing is just if you do have like a feedback thing is to make it a structured answer. So don't just give them a free text field where they can just write whatever they like, but actually ask them questions like the things that you really want to know, and including ways that you can get in contact with them. But yeah, I think the App Store is really tough.
We all agree.
Yeah, it's just
broken is another word.
Brutal. And yeah, I really do think that Apple could change it to be something a lot more useful.